All right, let's discuss all the parts that are actually included with this audio package. This entire audio package has been pre-set up and pre-tuned, so if you were to order one from Davidson Audio, then this is everything you're going to get with it, so you can do your install yourself or have your local shop do it. These are the 6.5s and the 8-inch speakers, and to power this we're going to be using two Soundigital EVOPS amplifiers, the 8-inch acrylic rings. These are from Garage Bagger Stereo, and these are meant for a coaxial speaker with a horn in the middle. We get into the stuff that we make in-house, a fairing shroud that we have made, the dual amp wiring kit that we offer. This is a 4-gauge oxygen-free copper wiring kit with a mini A&L fuse holder, and then there is the 4-gauge ground with an upgraded ground run from your battery to the frame, as we are adding more power to the bike. Next, we take a OEM fairing shroud from Indian and we modify it not only for clearance for the two amplifiers, but we install our fairing harness on here along with 4-gauge in and dual 8-gauge out power distribution blocks. And we secure our DSP, which in this package is the Rockford DSR-1 with a PAC TR7 time delay module. And then from there, we install our RCA wires and we color code them according to the location of the speakers they are powering. We use Stinger 4000 RCAs along with 309 custom audio RCAs. These are the 1 male to 2 male adapters. And that's how you're going to get your signal to your amplifiers. From there, we offer our wiring. This is for the fairing and the saddlebags. And then if you look at this longer wire, that is to go from the fairing to the saddlebags. That's all the parts that are going into this. So let's go ahead, start getting this bike disassembled so that way we can get all this equipment put in the bike. All right, before we can put these speakers in, there's one thing that we have to do real quick, which is all included in the packaging here. So let's go ahead and take these speakers out. And inside here, it's right here. Where is it? So there's 4 of them. We don't need any of the hardware. There's the other. We're done with the box. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna flip the speaker over. And in the packaging comes with this is speaker gasket tape. It helps with ensuring we get a good solid seal. What to do is we're going to stick this on there. All right, so what we have to do is verify where the 4 holes are. So what I'm going to do is take this Sharpie, put it over and put a little bit of a mark on here, which gold isn't the absolute best color to use on these speakers, but it will help us get at least some sort of a mark on them. You find your first hole, the rest of them line right up. Just gonna line this up with the edge, just like this, kind of centered on the hole, right along the edge. This one, same thing, centered up with the hole. Lock it here and kind of press it back. Same thing here. So now you can see where that interlock happens and continues that gasket. So let's just continue the rest of the way around, just like that. We have 2 speakers gasketed. So now we're gonna go take these over to the bike. We're gonna put the speaker rings on here. These will be gasket tape as well to double seal it in there, make sure we got a nice tight seal. So let's go back over to the bike. We're gonna get our Phillips screwdriver, and this takes no tools obviously, and our 4mm Allen, and get these put back in the bike. So the white and the gray on here differentiates the location of where these wiring harnesses go. So white is front left, gray is front right. So obviously front left enclosure, front right fairing enclosure. And then on this particular one, the green and black wires are for your tweeters. And then we also went side to side differentiation on the mids. So the blue and black are left and the red and black are right. So red is right, blue is left. Crossovers, we put some 3M double-sided tape because these are actually going to get taped in right here. If you can see that, it's kind of dark, but at the bottom of the enclosure, right here with the wires facing this way to make it easier. So let's go ahead and get these put on their appropriate sides so that way we can get our speakers installed. So right here, you're gonna take this end with the wire ferrules on it, and you're gonna feed it up through the enclosure hole right there underneath, and you're gonna gently get it pushed through. Now the biggest thing is where you see the shrink tubing, that stays in the enclosure. So I just kind of bend it for right now. We're just gonna leave that wire sitting out because we're gonna transfer over this rubber seal I'll show you in a second. So what I like to do is just peel off the double-sided tape. You can set it aside, throw it on the ground, wherever you want. And now I'm gonna stick this to the most forward part of this enclosure right here at the bottom, towards the middle. And we're just gonna put a little pressure, and that holds that in. So now we have plenty of wires to make our connections to the speakers, and they got plenty of room to go back in. So we'll just set those in there for now. Let's go to the brake side. So same thing again, we'll move handlebars out of our way. We're gonna hold this so we don't scratch the fairing. Bend it at a 90, and we're just gonna set it up over here. We're going to, come on. Again, most forward section of the enclosure, right towards the middle at the bottom. Give a little bit of a jiggle, and now we're good here. So now what we're going to do is we're gonna come over here. So we need to transfer this seal. All right, I like to take a Alpha knife. It's just a skinny razor blade and a fresh blade. And holding the wire away, what I like to do is take it and you just push it through. And then you're gonna hit the inside part of the inner ring. So then I just rotate it and do it in a X or plus fashion. Again. So just make sure you're very careful. Pull the wire away. Factory connector through. Make sure you don't take the seal off of that. And then, obviously the wires are going through this way, so I like to push them out one at a time. Like I said, keeping this shrink tube. You can pull it out just to know where. Sometimes you just gotta, with this braided loom. All right, right about there. And then this can be a little bit difficult, but I usually like to get one side in. Some smaller screwdrivers. Just be very cognizant that you're not gonna poke the wire. All right, now we have a good seal. Pull that flap over, ensure. Yep, we're good. Go to the other side and do the same thing. Now that you have your gasket tape installed on the speaker and everything, it's time to put the speaker in. But first, we need to go over here and make the wiring connections for the speaker. The ones I like to make first are the mid-range. So obviously, they're just spade terminals, and now these are magnetic, so they're kind of a pain. And off camera, obviously, I had already loosen those. So black for my harness is ground. Can't speak for anybody else's. So those are nice and tight, and the one thing I like to do is just bend them down a little bit to give us a little bit more room. And then here again, black is the negative on the Cicada crossover. press that on there, positive. And then here, I just like to bend them in just a little bit because it is a tight fit. Okay, so I was mistaken. They go the opposite way for some reason, and I don't know why I did it that way. So easy goof. So what we're gonna do is we're actually just gonna swap these spades around so that way we can bend them up. I don't know what I was thinking about by putting them the opposite way, but hey, we're all human, things happen. And there we go, and then I just kind of bend them up just a little bit to bring them towards the middle of the speaker. And just watch your wires down here. That gasket tape, it's going to make it a little bit tighter of a fit at first, but they will go down in there. So you just got to be patient and get all your screws started, get them torqued down. But nothing that the screws themselves won't tighten up for us. Now don't go ridiculously tight because these are plastic and you can strip them out. So just turn them until you feel really good tight resistance. Right about there. So now we have our first speaker installed, so let's go to the other side, get that one done. And just like that, we have both fairing speakers installed, and as you can see, like I said before, we got the Cicada Audio logo at the bottom. So now that we have those done, we're going to go ahead and get the Saddlebag speakers installed. All that wiring ran so we can get it zip tied, buttoned up, and start doing the wiring and installing the amplifiers under the fairings. So let's go. All right, now we're back at the Saddlebag, and what we're going to do is get the wiring installed that goes into the Saddlebag itself with the crossover and the wiring and everything. What I like to do is I send the harnesses with this 4-pin bulkhead connector. So this is what's going to go on the inside of the bag and provide a nice weather-tight connection to go outside for the speaker wires. And with that, I send a template. So we are going to put this connector right up here next to the factory connector. We're going to go just a smidge above because of the connector bottom. We're going to put this right about here so that way it's easily accessible from on the back side. So let's go ahead and get that taped up. All right, now that we have this area taped off, what I'm going to do is take my ruler here, measure off this lip, and I'm gonna measure up 3/4 of an inch. The screws to go through to give us just enough height to clear that hump, and then we know when we do the other side, we'll be in the exact same spot. Now what we're going to do is find the drill bit that corresponds with this hole, which is right there. we can take one of the screws that comes with this kit, hold the template in the next hole, then we have our second hole, which is right on the line. Both holes, what I'm going to do is put a piece of tape over the screw portions now to hold this template into place. Now if you have like double-sided router tape, which I have, just not here with me, now we can trace this out. This is roughly a 1-inch hole. It's just a smidge over. Let's take a measurement and see. Yeah, so we're coming in at exactly 1 inch. So if we mark ½ inch, there's a couple different things you can use to drill this hole out. I'm going to use a Forstner bit because I have one in 1 inch. Do you have a hole saw? You could probably use that. My only fear with the hole saw is that it will really chew up the bag. So that being said, just use what you feel comfortable with, whatever you have that's closest to this, and you will be fine. So we're going to drill. Now you don't want to drill a big hole, just enough for the tip of the Forstner bit to find its way right there, just like we have it. So tape caught the other end. So now let's go ahead and clean that up and get this side installed. So to clean this up, I'm just going to use a little 120 grit just to clean up the screw opening. I don't want to sit here and sand the bag down itself. All right, so what we did is we took the saddlebag off so that way we could take and sand this opening just a little bit more, because 1 inch tolerance is just a little too tight. Now you could probably get away with like a 1 1/16 or 1 1/8 inch hole saw, step bit, or whatever you want to use. But I like to use the unibit 1 inch because then I take some 80 grit sandpaper and I kind of fold it up just like this, and I put it in there and I work it around, and then I go over, clean it up with 120 just to make sure that that connector gets in there real tight. So now what we are going to do is take the one wiring harness that has, because this is the rear clutch side saddlebag, we're going to take the green shrink tubed end, and I'm going to push the connector through with the tab up top, so that way it's easier to reach in there. And then all you got to do is take your supplied 4mm hardware, just get it in there. And again, this is also kind of a tight fit because of how tight we made that template, but it goes right on in there. And then what I do is just slowly tighten them up. I don't snug just one. I will start one, get to the other one, and then I kind of go back and forth just because I don't want to suck this thing crooked on one side versus the other. So go grab the other one, put it on the bench, and we'll do the exact same thing this time. So. Just like that, we have a nice and tight seal there. We're gonna go take this over, get it vacuumed out, and get it installed back on the bike, so let's go. Now that we have the bulkhead screwed in from the outside, saddlebags back on the bike, what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on routing the wire along the plastic channel that is inside the bike and up and through this fabric off this metal piece so we can fish the wire and the crossover through it. So we're gonna go ahead and start there. This will be a 3-4 millimeters and a 5 millimeter screw, and these hold the hinge on the bikes. This is why I want to do this now before we try to get lids on there, because it'll be darn near impossible. So let's go zip this off. And just like that, this comes off, and then the hinge fell off. Now make sure when you go to put this back on the bag, this is the part that goes to the saddlebag and this goes to the bag. So make sure that your hinge goes on like this. Don't make the mistake I did and I put it on like this the first time again. So, and what we want to do is right here is the fabric with the metal, and there is just a little bit of like adhesive on here. So what you got to do is just try to work the metal or the fabric down, which I'm actually going to go grab my pry tool. You could use a flathead screwdriver as well. All right, now we got the tool, so we can just put it in here, release that glue around the fabric, push the fabric on down. All right, and what we want to do is seeing that it goes on here just like this, we want to route our wiring, and we can just leave it long for right now. So this is going to go just like this, our wiring along with the factory locks, and put this metal right on back through, just like that. So then what's going to happen is we're going to go ahead, we're just going to do the 3-4 millimeters for right now, because the 5 millimeters would also holds the track on, and that's what we want to zip tie to. Put it through that hole, take your hinge, and remember, you want it to open up. I'm going to zip tie this to the inside portion of this. So we want to get a couple of zip ties in here. Now what I'm going to do is this connector down at the bottom, we're just going to loosen it up. All right, we're just going to take that out all the way. Like that, we have it back where we want it. Now it's time to get the lids on. All right, so the only thing I've done off camera is I put the seal in the bag and the lid. It's pretty self-explanatory. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the 4 OEM lid hardware that we left in the hinge to begin with in here, and we are going to loosely install it. I like to just start it and then rest it on my knees. Before you put this in, make sure you make the electrical connection. Just verify that your tumbler's working just fine. and you should be able to get 2 clicks on there, just like that. So let's go ahead and jump to the other side and get that one on as well. All right, now time to go grab the speakers. We'll get those installed real quick, and then we will work on the wiring. Now with that, we can go ahead and start wiring up our speaker. I want to wire up the speaker first and then get the crossover installed, because I want to be able to zip tie the wiring up, test the tape it up a little bit and get it nice and clean, and then we'll put the strap on, we'll put the hinge cover on, and then we'll be good to go. All right, now it's time to go ahead and get our rear saddlebag wiring connected. You're gonna have 2 Ampernol connectors. These are the same as the Deutsch style DT connectors, exact same, just different company. You'll notice that the wiring has a different colored shrink tube on it. Green is for the rear left, purple or violet is rear right. So on this would be the clutch side saddlebag, violet would be brake side saddlebag. So let's go ahead and set aside the violet first, and obviously it's on both ends. So let's go ahead and set that aside for now. All right, so I like to start by putting the connector in the bag first so we can route the wiring. So on this side, we're gonna go underneath the crash bar and just open up the saddlebag. And this is going to be a little bit of a tight fit, obviously for people that have fat hands, but it can be done, or you can go ahead and loosen the bag. But I wanted to do it with the bag on just to see. And just like that, we are there. And just you'll hear a click. So now comes the time for the routing. So you have to understand that this wiring is going to run down here and this little bit of a channel. So what I like to do is we're going to put our wire down there first. So just go underneath the shock adjustment. You're going to find that little clip there. There we go. We're in that clip. We just left a little bit of slack, you know, enough to get it out. And then here, we're gonna route it. You got the rear shock and then the reservoir line. We're gonna go in between the two. And then we're just gonna go up with it and set it on the other side. So what I like to do is, because there's that connector there, we'll kind of go up behind it. That is, I'm trying to see where I want to put this so it's not in the way. So right about there, you know, just a nice little loop in it, so that way it's not in the way of that pin connector. We'll rotate this zip tie if we can. Nope. So what you want to do is, because this is so close to the shock, is put a handful of zip ties on this, just so that way it's up out of the way. And then once we get up here, we're obviously going to bring it across and then up and follow the main harness. So let's go ahead and try to get a couple of zip ties on that. So like I said, I want to throw a zip tie all the way at the bottom of this reservoir line, get that nice loop. All right, we got one right there. I'm gonna put 3 of them on here just to be safe. Just because I get really concerned being this close to suspension parts. I don't like to take a chance. So just be cognizant of where, okay, that slits way up here. So we're gonna bring one just below this, and then we'll bring one right above it. So it's right there. So we'll bring, and again, the zip tie gun will do. All right, so now that we're there, let's throw another zip tie in. This time we're gonna use the 8" because it's thicker. And we're gonna find that hole. Yep, and use the back of your hand, push it forward just like that, and there we go. So, and just like that, we can hit it. I'm gonna hit this one with a zip tie gun again. And then let's throw one more 4" zip tie on here. So this will be the last one on this side that we do, and then we'll go to the top side and we'll throw a couple more on there until we get it up on the backbone. All right, so now this wiring is nice and down. This connector can still make its connection, which we're gonna go ahead and do, because we do not need to get back onto the bags. And you're probably wondering, Brandon, what's this other connector for? That is for the rear saddlebag lights that the customer had put on. So these, we're just gonna route them up and over. Actually, we might just, yeah, we're just gonna leave them up. So I don't want to zip tie those to this harness because they come off in different ways. So we'll end up coming back here, and I may put some exterior Tessa tape on this. So we're just gonna leave them like that, because I'm gonna come back and do that, make it neater and tighter. So let's go to the top now. Bring a couple more of our zip ties. So let's go ahead and throw, or let's just do 2 more. Okay, so this side. Yeah, we'll do 3 up here, just to get it up and over that reservoir. And here we don't have quite enough room on this bottom one, so flush trim, we'll just, all right, now that we have this here, we will just, we're just gonna actually set it up over here, because I will merge these two together and figure out, I'm probably just gonna tuck it down in here in that slot. I've done that before. We'll figure it out in a minute. All right, same thing, just leave a little bit of slack, but this is where it gets different, is the routing of this. So as you can tell, this side of the frame is solid. So what I like to do is we're gonna go ahead and pop this connector right on off. So this one does have a little tab, you can pull it up and get it up out of the way. So I take that off because you want to, hopefully my fat head doesn't get in the way. So you're gonna reach down in here along this side. See if I can show you right there. And you're gonna pull the wires up. And the same thing as before. We're just gonna leave, you know, just enough slack so that way you disconnect it. And again, I like to put it on the other side of the bike. And then here, because we popped it off, we're gonna slide it back on. Just like that. So we're actually gonna bring this to the bottom side of it. This one, I don't worry about any zip ties on this part because it'll be covered up in the cover, or you can tuck it up right up underneath here. That'll be fine. The cover will go back up over it. So now that we're here, what I like to do is bring it up, and we're actually gonna throw a zip tie or two on this coolant reservoir line. So that way we have something to zip tie it up to. So we're just gonna put like a couple zip ties there, and then we're gonna join these two wires there. So let's grab 4-inch zip ties will work. And on these, make sure you don't go crazy tight because that is a soft line. So you don't want to go compressing it. So on these, I will not be using the zip tie guns because I don't want to add any extra tension. I just want to add just enough to get the wire in place and have something to hold it in place is all. All right, so let's go ahead and cut this. All right. And now we are going to figure out our routing here. So let's get these cameras turned back around and get the backbone done. All right, now we're here. So this is where we're gonna start securing this wire to take it up the backbone. And one thing I do want you to be cognizant of is this is the fuel overflow line. So if you overfill it at the gas cap area, it's gonna come down. The line is actually stuck to the fuel tank, and then it goes to here and it drains the extra fuel down one of the sides, which I think it's right here. So if you overfill your bike, it leans down there. So just for gee-whiz information. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna actually zip tie these wires together here, and then we're gonna follow this, the brake lines, and then we're gonna just secure it up this main rear wiring harness. So let's go ahead and do that part first. We'll put a couple 4-inch zip ties there, and then we will go from there. Now at this point, I like to just go ahead and route it up into the fairing so that way it is up out of our way. So for here, I just use the larger zip ties because I don't want to fight with it. So I'm gonna go here. Right here, as you might have seen, this is the antenna wire, and I do not like to trap this with the other wiring. So personal preference, but that's my advice, is just leave it on its own. Actually right here, we need to redo that zip tie because of that. So we're actually gonna do that in just a second. It on top of the harness. So that's good. Now it's nice and flush. Okay, that zip tie cutter is not doing a good job. So, yep, see, like right here. You don't think about it, but that is enough to cut you wide on open. Done it many times. All right, now that we got that all nice and bundled tight, our wiring for the rear is good to go. So let's go to the fairing and start getting that wired up.